Tonight.
Thank you, Judge. Great to be here, and a great week, to say the least.
Indeed. I must agree with you, Governor. I was a little hoarse on Wednesday and a little tired, but it has been a great week. Now, Governor, I want to ask for some sound here. I want you to take a listen to part of what we heard tonight on 60 Minutes with President-elect Trump.
Well, let me just say, as a pro-life person for whom this is a non-negotiable, I'm so very proud of Donald Trump for being unabashedly clear on his position for life. I just don't see how people can call themselves civilized when they take the position that was taken in the third debate by his opponent, who even supported late-term partial birth abortion. And I thought the way he handled that issue in the debate, and again tonight, showed that he has convictions about this. These are not political conveniences. That's refreshing to those of us in the pro-life world. But for many of us, this is an issue of whether or not we're a civilized people. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, he's not going to get to solve this all by himself. I don't think he thinks he is. But he made it very clear that when he looks at people who will judge things, and particularly Supreme Court justices, he wants people who have a clarity about issues like life. And let's face it, most of us go back to Roe v. Wade and we understand that they had to manufacture a basis. There was nothing in the Constitution about abortion. Therefore, it was a political decision by the court, not a legal or judicial one.
The interesting part of this, is that the whole concept of interviewing judges or seeking judges and assessing their qualifications, for the most part, we don't ask them to prejudge a particular issue. I mean, as a former judge myself, I know this. But it seems to be accepted these days. So the Democrats say we want someone who is pro-choice, and the Republicans or conservatives say we want someone who's pro-life. But would you agree with me, Governor, that is something that isn't generally, considered necessarily necessary when we decide that we want to put a judge on the court?
I think what we really need to ask is, do you believe that the judicial branch is one of three equal, or do you believe in judicial supremacy? Do you believe that the judicial branch can legislate and actually just make up law because it's politically expedient? Or maybe you're acting on behalf of a Congress that just doesn't want to touch the issue. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest issue, because what we need is judges who go understanding the limitations of their branch of government.
Right.
And frankly, since the 1940s, they haven't had that limitation.
Yes.
And they've acted as if they're legislators. That's totally against what the Constitution says their role can be.
Yes, as activists, of course. And right now it's a 4-4 split with a conservative appointment in the place of Judge Antonin Scalia. Obviously, it would change the balance. But, of course, there is no case that I'm aware of right now that is, bubbling up the pipeline for the judges to even consider Roe versus Wade. And, of course, as you know, if it were to ever be overturned, it would go back to the states. It's an individual call by the states.
Some states, there would be no abortion, states like my home state of Arkansas, where we have a constitutional amendment that would prohibit it. But there are other states, frankly, that probably would have more abortions just because they're so liberal about it. But I think the bigger question is, this is ultimately not going to be decided judicially. It'll be decided by a culture that decides that every human life has worth and value, and there's no such thing as a human being that is worthless, and that the child with Down syndrome is just as valuable as the captain of the football team. And there's no time at which we would deem somebody unworthy of respect and dignity of life. That's where we really will ultimately win this battle. And I think Donald Trump has clarified time and again on the campaign trail that's his view. And it's one of the reasons I'm convinced he is going to be not a good president. I think he's going to be a great president.
Well,
and
I'm
very excited that he won the other night.
Governor Mike Huckabee. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. And the Brexit vote in the UK was a precursor to the Trump victory here in the United States. You heard it here first because I told you during my opening statement right after the vote. Tonight I had a chance to speak with Nigel Farage, the head of the UK Independence Party who led the Brexit movement. Farage met with President-elect Trump in person on Saturday and spoke with me about that meeting and about the historic Brexit vote. Nigel Farage, thanks so much for being with us tonight. I know you're getting on a plane, and we appreciate your time. Now, you were the head of the Independence Party in the UK, and you led it to victory in what's come to be known as Brexit, which told me in June that Donald Trump was going to end up winning. Why Brexit? How did you win, and what did it tell you?
Easy peasy. The political class have all come together, supported by the big banks, the big businesses, and for the last few years, ordinary families at dinner every night have been saying, what is going on and what can we do? What Brexit did was give them a chance to say what they thought, and they did, and we won. And that was an inspiration, I think, to Donald Trump, to Team Trump, to all the activists, to say, look, you can beat the establishment, but what you've got to do, you've got to go out and vote. And Brexit was turned by non-voters going out to vote, and Trump won. Why? Because Democrats just couldn't really raise the energy to go and vote for that.
And because non-voters, traditional non-voters were out to vote.
And they came out for Trump.
Okay, and speaking of Trump, I think we have a picture here. You were at Trump Tower yesterday. I think you're one of the first people to actually meet with him. You consulted with him during the presidential campaign. And most Americans have not seen Donald Trump without a tie, as we can see him there on the screen. I hear that it was a very comfortable, everybody had a great time with the president-elect.
It was a laid-back chat.
What was it like? I mean, here he is. It's his first meeting as president-elect.
Do you know what? He was thoughtful. He was reflective. He was throwing a few ideas around about what he's going to do as president. I've got to tell you, this has been a vicious campaign, the most vicious campaign ever for the US presidency. He's 70 years old, and he was doing 6 rallies a day in the last few days. We saw him yesterday. I thought, my goodness me, this guy is tough. But also, this guy is now thinking carefully about how to be not just a puncher and a fighter, how to be a president, how to be a leader. And I felt, after an hour's meeting yesterday coming out, this guy has all the makings of being a very great president.
And I think, Nigel, that what people don't know about him is that he has the ability to bring sides together. Look, he was in a campaign. He had to run this race a certain way. And, now I think we're going to be seeing a different person. And, I mean,
of course.
You saw him, though, in a personal way. And, tell the viewers, what kind of guy is this?
When you fight campaigns, it's absolute dog eats dog. And it gets vicious and nasty. I've been in those things. You're
a member of the European Parliament.
I am. The most outnumbered politician in history, where they all shout at me and scream at me.
They're different over there. Do you guys deck each other? I mean, they're yelling and screaming in Parliament?
Oh, they yell and scream at me, which I enjoy, because I'm the pantomime villain. And that's great. And that's no problem. This guy, he made his victory speech was that of a statesman. It was, it was conciliatory. He says now, I've won, but I'm going to be the president for all of America. And do you know what? I believe him absolutely sincerely. What I left that meeting with yesterday was a sense he really, genuinely wants to help ordinary, hard-working American people.
Okay, so you're in Trump Tower yesterday. We know that there are these protesters. I mean, they're yelling and screaming. It's almost as though Chicken Little, the sky is falling. What did you think of that? I mean, do they do that in the UK?
Oh, I recognise them by their faces.
What do you mean?
No, they were flown in from London. No, absolutely. They're the same people protesting about Brexit. Look, let's be frank.
The paid ones?
Let's be frank. Let's be frank. These people were all too busy smoking drugs to go out and vote, and yet they go and protest. Come on, forget about it.
It's like Kaepernick, who didn't even go out to vote. But listen, I have to tell you, I want to promote your book, The Bad Boys of Brexit, Tales of Mischief, Mayhem, and Guerrilla Warfare in the EU Referendum Campaign. Now, what my viewers can't see are your pals who are with you that I've seen in Las Vegas.
I wouldn't put them on television, I really wouldn't.
There is a lot of mischief and mayhem, and they wouldn't come on set. But Nigel Farage, thank you on behalf of a lot of people people, I'm sure, around the world.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. And GOPEC Chairman David Avella and former Clinton advisor Richard Goodstein are on my political panel still ahead. Plus, what a colorful, unforgettable ride it was.
Lion Ted. What's your name? My name's Lion Ted Cruz.
Next, I'll look back at the campaign that shocked the world. We'll relive some of the most talked about moments of President-elect Donald Trump's remarkable ride through history. You don't want to miss this, folks. That's next as this special edition of Justice rolls on. They said it wouldn't last. Donald Trump announced his historic candidacy 17 months ago to a largely skeptical America. Now, nearly a year and a half and tens of millions of votes later, the man so many didn't take seriously is poised to lead this great nation. We here at Justice had a front row seat to this most memorable of campaigns, a campaign that changed the face of the nation. It was the grand entrance that kicked off the campaign that would change the way we look at politics. A grand entrance immediately followed by the first in a long string of frank, no-nonsense talk no one had ever heard from a serious candidate before.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
Donald J. Trump's was the bare bones, tell it like it is, politically incorrect campaign that almost everyone calls a flash in the pan. Winning the White House was a pipe dream, said the pundits. But through it all, the straight talk kept coming. Ruffled feathers be damned.
Then he apologized like a little baby, like a disgusting little weak, pathetic baby.
He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
But behind the headline-making one-liners, the late-night Twitter smackdowns, and the occasional war with the press lay a real message.
I'm looking to make America great again, not credit.
A message that resonated with everyday Americans. Blue-collar voters tired of watching American jobs ship overseas, tired of a rapidly left-leaning countries leaving the everyman behind, and the man quickly emerging as the Republican frontrunner saw them, heard them, and embraced them. What is the movement?
It's a movement of people that are tired of seeing stupid decisions made in our country that are destroying our country, where our companies are leaving, our jobs, our people are being fired. It's a group of people that are tired of stupidity. It's a group of people that want common sense, and they want to win again. We don't win anymore.
One by one, the traditional GOP candidates, the ones who were supposed to win, were vanquished. Some in more memorable fashion than others.
This little guy has lied so much about my record. Did you ever see a guy sweat like this? It's Rubio. Lion Ted. What's your name? My name's Lion Ted Cruz. You have to spell it right. It's Lyin apostrophe Lion Ted. Jeb Bush, we call him low energy.
As he stood victorious, holding the mantle of the Republican Party, Donald Trump started the uphill battle against the face of the Democratic Washington establishment, pledging all along to keep proving the naysayers wrong and keep doing it like no one ever has.
I beat a lot of people that are good people, and now I have one left that'll probably be crooked Hillary. She's crooked as you get, and it'll probably be her, and we're going to see what happens.
What we saw at first was more of the same. The polls, the pundits, the people paid to read the tea leaves, all predicted history. The first female president, ready to continue the 8-year push to the left. But much of America had a different history-making vision in mind. An America that reached out to those who felt forgotten. And quickly, the race that wasn't supposed to be a race became, well, a race.
I have a message for all of you. The crime and violence that today afflicts our nation will soon, and I mean very soon, come to an end.
Then, a gift from the most unlikeliest of givers. A rallying cry from the very person who was already planning her move back to the White House.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
The basket grew until it burst. Hard-working, angry, frustrated, and now insulted American voters. Fired up and ready to make history. And through it all, though he added substance, specifics, and even a first 100-day action plan to the rhetoric, Donald Trump never stopped being Donald Trump.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
And as progressives and elites gathered in New York and across the country on election night, ready for a presumptive party, it was the forgotten, the angry, the working class who wound up emerging from the shadows to dance into the night. Those at the back of the line now up front, the movement now center stage. America stands at the crossroads of one of the most critical times in its history, with a president unlike any of its previous 44, ready to lead. The improbable, colorful ride that started on a golden escalator has finally reached the White House. Street justice still ahead tonight. Plus, what went wrong in the Clinton campaign and why is she making excuses now? Former Clinton advisor David Goodstein is next on the panel along with GOPAC chairman David Avella. Justice, back in a moment.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Kelly Wright. Here's what's happening. A sheriff in Central California says the killing of his deputy earlier today was an execution. Now a suspect is in custody for allegedly shooting Deputy Dennis Wallace in the head from point-blank range. The suspect, David Machado, was arrested about 2.5 hours south of where Wallace was killed for trying to steal a woman's purse. It was only after the arrest that authorities realized they had the man accused of killing Deputy Wallace. And a powerful earthquake striking the eastern coast of New Zealand this morning. The magnitude 7.8 quake could be felt from more than 120 miles away. Emergency services quickly warned folks to move to higher ground as tsunami warnings went into effect. At least 2 people were killed and some buildings damaged. That's a look at news this hour. I'm Kelly Wright. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
Breaking news from President-elect Donald Trump's transition team as he announces Reince Priebus as White House Chief of Staff and Stephen Bannon as Chief Strategist and Senior Counselor. This as Hillary Clinton keeps trying to figure out why she's home in Westchester watching it all on television. Joining me now is my political panel, GOPAC Chair David Avella, former advisor to Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign, Richard Goodstein. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Richard, you used to work for Hillary Clinton. Is she a good loser? Why is she blaming Jim Comey for her loss?
You know, it's funny, Judge. Hillary Clinton got 1.5 million more votes. Donald Trump got a smaller percentage of the vote than Mitt Romney.
Look,
no.
He won.
I'm just saying,
she didn't. It's a democratic process. The question is, why is she being a sore loser?
Well, she won the popular vote, right? So you'll concede that more people voted for her. You'll concede that every sentence...
Do you concede that the Constitution dictates who the winner is in a presidential election, and that it is determined by the Electoral College?
Absolutely, but every sentence that Donald Trump says that begins... We don't have that much time, Richard.
Oh,
no, listen, but every time he says, the voters elected me to do X, that's untrue.
Is her blaming Jim Comey for the loss the sign of a sore loser?
I think Kellyanne Conway would tell you exactly what Hillary Clinton said. Kellyanne was on TV 5:30 p.m. on election day. No, of course Comey's responsible. Look, were there other things in the campaign?
So then she's not a sore loser is the answer to the question.
I'm saying that but for Jim Comey doing what he did, she wins.
Okay.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that, even in the Trump campaign.
Okay, good. David.
Judge, a line that Hillary Clinton will know well is our long national nightmare is over. And whether it's that we don't have to deal with the Hillary Clinton campaign or a Hillary Clinton presidency, or as President-elect Trump said tonight, he doesn't want to hurt the Clintons and isn't sure whether charges should be brought against her or whether they will be pursued. It is time to go about the business of the American people.
And you know, I have to tell you, David, I was very impressed with that.
Let's start.
He just said, I want to work. But listen, guys, I want you to listen to this sound. It has to do with social media and spending money. All right, guys, that was on 60 Minutes tonight. Donald and his family, he had a immediate family, 18 million Facebook followers, Twitter 19.5, Instagram 6. And is that the sign of a new way of campaigning, David?
Yes, and Donald Trump is going to need it. If you watch that 60 Minutes interview tonight, it is very clear that every media interview that Donald Trump goes on, he is going to be condescended to by the reporters because they can't stand him. And it is very clear. Not only did we see it in the campaign, but we saw it tonight on CBS with Leslie Stahl's interview. It's going to continue. And what Donald Trump said is, look, I'm going to find other ways to communicate directly to the American people. And it worked.
All right, Richard, is this a new way of campaigning? And because clearly the pollsters got it all wrong.
Yeah. So look, he got $2 billion of free airtime, having nothing to do with social media. Free airtime by all estimates, right? More than anybody else got. So you can't really discount that. He didn't have to pay a cent for it. Good for him.
Well,
okay. Really, that was very clever on his part.
Being called a racist and being called
well, you know what?
Every name in the book against him is free airtime, Richard.
David, by having a white nationalist as your chief strategist, you're not exactly separating yourself from the charge of racism and anti-Semitism. You're
Richard,
feeding right into that.
I check. The president makes decisions, and staff executes what the president what makes his decisions to do. The decisions that are going to get made in the White House are by the president.
And he made the decision to have a white nationalist at his side. Look,
Richard, I have to tell you something. You know, we have a president-elect who was asked whether he wanted a special prosecutor for Hillary Clinton. And his answer was, I have important things to do, jobs and the economy. He's showing class. He's showing class and talking about Hillary Clinton immediately when he was elected. He's showing class by calling the president a good man. I think the rest of the Democrats ought to follow the way this man is conducting himself. And, I have to tell you, it doesn't bode well for you. It really does.
Judge, wait.
Listen, David, hold on. David, listen. That question, David, that was directed to me. David,
let Richard answer it because I put it to him. Richard.
You cannot deny, Judge, I'm Jewish. White nationalists think Jews and blacks and Hispanics are second-class citizens.
Who are
subhuman.
You talking about?
Steve Bannon is his chief strategist.
Look, we're talking about the President of the United States and his interview on 60 Minutes. The fact that you don't want to say anything nice about him and you got to go left or right is not what we're talking about. David, go ahead.
Judge, tonight, Donald Trump, which we still have not heard from Hillary Clinton or President Obama, said folks should not be out rioting. And even his supporters, if they are doing something against other Americans, they should stop. He looked directly into the camera and said they should stop. If that's not an indication as to the type of administration he's going to run, I don't know what is.
Shouldn't the President and Hillary come out and say enough?
Enough of what? Look,
of these protests.
Judge,
look, protesting is
they're
fine.
Not directing the protests. The fact is, I understand it's probably hard. Imagine how you would have felt.
No,
and David
I didn't
had
care
Trump lost.
when a Democrat got elected or a Republican. Look, that's the people have spoken. That's the system.
Of course, but again, when your side gets more votes and ends up on the short end of the stick, there's something about it that doesn't feel quite right.
Follow the Constitution. Follow the
I agree.
Constitution.
I'm with
David
you.
Avella, Richard Goodstein, thanks. I wanted to have a conversation. Anyway, next, the commentary on the election that's taking the social media world by storm. Plus, my opening statement last night on President-elect Donald Trump's historic victory has found a life of its own on social media. So if you missed it, take a look. At 10:32 a.m. today, I received a phone call from President-elect Donald J. Trump, who has known me since my time as a county judge and elected district attorney. He stated that he looks forward to beginning the process of making America great again, and he thanks Justice and all her viewers for their support. I am honored to have had the privilege to speak with both the President-elect and his beautiful wife, future First Lady Melania, as America embarks on this very special journey. And indeed, it's been one amazing, wild, unpredictable ride. And you've been with me the whole time. Thank you for that. Now, I told you from the beginning to strap in that it would be a revolution. Indeed, it was. Yes, there's an insurrection coming. From the beginning, we knew this would be a political revolution. Be careful, boys. Be very, very careful. You don't want to make this a different kind of revolution. I told you this election was a revolution, but even I didn't know how big it would be. It's worldwide. What happened in England is going to happen again. Next stop, the United States. Next president, Donald J. Trump. And as for the campaign itself, they told you you didn't matter. That if you supported him, you were probably uneducated, small-minded, and irrelevant. You were beneath them. That if you wanted closed borders, a nation-state, you weren't Christian enough, not American enough, not big-hearted enough. That if you didn't see racism in every cop who walked the beat, you probably were a racist yourself. That if you use the term Muslim jihadist instead of terrorist, you were an anti-religious bigot. Truth and honesty had no place in their politically correct society. If you opposed sanctuary cities where the protection of illegal criminal immigrants was the law, you were a hateful, bigoted xenophobe. They simply knew better than you. They tried to convince you that Obamacare was great, when all the time your deductible and premiums were skyrocketing, that the economy wasn't that bad, yet you had to work 2 and 3 jobs to just get along. Jobs that shipped overseas didn't matter to them because they were part of the global economy. She even called you deplorable, irredeemable, and not America. If you didn't support her, you probably hated women and were backward. They tried to convince you that a lie wasn't a lie if it came from her mouth. And the media, so corrupt that they shared debate questions with her to give her the edge, tried to beat you down by repeatedly telling you it was useless to even show up at the polls. And even though the President of the United States did his very best on the eve of the election to trash him and mock him as a joke and unfit, bringing out Jay-Z and Springsteen, Beyonce and Gaga, it didn't matter. And in spite of it all, even though we felt forgotten, alone, and beaten down, we all came home. Because this wasn't an election, it was a revolution. We came home to where our forefathers, in their genius, had always planned. Back to America. Back to who we are. Back to the Constitution. And yes, Mr. Soon-to-be ex-President Obama, we can now proudly cling to guns, our religion, and now our new president-elect, Donald J. Trump. What should you expect from a Trump administration? Street Justice is next. It's a new day in America. This week, I hit the pavement to find out what people expect from President-elect Donald Trump once he takes office. It's time for Street Justice.
What do you expect from a Trump administration?
More effective governing.
What's going to happen in a Trump presidency?
It can only go up. It can only get better.
A lot of people think that he's really just going to go in and kind of like turn everything upside down, but that's what we have checks and balances for.
What do you think a Trump administration is going to offer? And I don't care what your answer is, so say whatever you want.
I'm deeply worried about what it's going to offer.
Hopefully we don't go to war with any country in 4 years.
Yeah, well, Hillary Clinton was more of a hawk than he was.
I think that the agenda that he put forth for the first 100 days makes sense. I like that he's cleaning up Washington. I like that he's a businessman.
Now, all right.
Oh my God, we're back. I mean, America's back. We're gonna take control of the government and then really clean up house, drain the swamp.
I'm very, very worried. It's like all my friends and I say it's like 9/11. We're just frightened. We don't know Trump. We don't know who he is, what he is.
Okay, it's not like the guy's been under a rock for the last 30 years.
Hopefully he can make America great again, like he says.
What changes would you want?
I think a better economy for the working class, for the middle class.
He certainly has the ability to do something for the economy, yeah?
He says he does.
And what do you think, in addition to jobs, what do you think that Trump is going to be doing?
Well, I hope he lets us all say Merry Christmas again, Happy Hanukkah, and live in peace.
What do you think the first thing is that he'll do?
Probably pay some people to make sure that they agree with whatever he says, and then maybe go from there.
For him, it's all about being a winner. So for him, as long as he can look like a good president, he'll do whatever the advisors around him tell him.
Doesn't that benefit us in the long run?
Well, I damn well hope so.
I hope he does some good things.
Think he will? Oh, come on.
I don't know, honey. That's a toss-up.
First of all, I'm a judge. Don't ever call me honey again.
Okay. I'm scared now.
How's it going to be under a Trump administration?
I think certainly better than under Obama.
Why?
Because, I think Obama has really hurt the country tremendously.
Say something nice. One nice thing.
I'm wishing Barack Obama the best in his retirement.
What should happen to Barack Obama now?
Just let him go play golf somewhere.
What do you wish Barack Obama on his way out?
Sayonara.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
I love you very much. God bless America. Let's go Trump, baby.
We'll be right back. What a week it's been. And that's it for the special Sunday edition of Justice. Remember, friend me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and on Instagram at Judge_Jeanine. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week, Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. Same time, same place. But it's Sunday.